Just a quick introduction. So obviously, yeah, I reached out to Clare because obviously you're in charge of DXW. But before we kind of get into it, would you just be able to give a quick introduction, maybe for people who aren't familiar with yourself and what it is you do?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Clare Young. I'm delivery director at DXW, and we're a leading employee-owned digital agency.
Awesome, brilliant. So we'll get straight into it then. So first question, so this is the one we ask everyone, is just about what's your favourite quote or that you sort of live or work by?
Exactly a quote, but it's a significant thing. I think for me, I heard someone say this at a conference once, that confidence is a behaviour. It's not a personality type. It's something that you can learn. And as somebody that was always told I was very quiet and not very confident, that was quite significant. So I now practice confidence, and I think it makes me kind of more successful and happy at work, to be honest.
Perfect. Well, I think that's something everyone would want. So that's awesome. You have to teach me that. Okay, so can you tell me a little bit then about what it is you do at DXW?
Yeah, of course. So I help build high-performing delivery teams and sort of set up an environment with them and our clients to deliver. We do this by designing effective services that solve problems. We do that in the public sector, so in sort of central government and charities. Some examples, we've got a team at the National Archives who are looking at making case law more accessible for everybody. And we have another team who are working with an NHS trust in the north of England, making sure that patients get the right emergency care. So we're doing that through building software, but also some service design and lots of user research and iterative delivery as well.
Okay, perfect. Hugely rewarded. So in terms of your journey then, how did you kind of get into tech, and how did you get into agile, and how did you get into the industry as a whole?
A little bit by chance, actually, not quite by design. So I studied geography at university, came out as a generalist, thought I wanted to work in the charity sector, had some experience in the charity sector, which I enjoyed, but wasn't quite sure what that career path was going to mean for me. So I joined the civil service fast stream. I joined as a generalist, but then I got offered a place on the what was called the Technology and Business program at the time. It's now called DDAT, which stands for Digital Data and Technology. And that was sort of my entry in, really. I then I did a couple of placements, and one of those placements was at the Government Digital Service. This was almost more than 10 years ago, actually. So they were just forming, and I was just very fortunate to be in the right place at the right time. So saw what they were doing with user-centered design, accessible technology, and building software for government. Quite liked it. So moved around a few departments, worked in a charity, and then joined DXW 5 years ago. So that's sort of how I've got to where I am today.
Okay, certainly an interesting route. I think it's all going well. So next one then. So I know diversity and inclusion, sort of something you're quite passionate about. What do you think we can do as a collective to try and help increase that sort of diversity in the space and help to attract a more diverse set of people into the industry?
Yeah, it's a topic that well, there's an awful lot to say and a lot to learn as well. I think we all need to take responsibility for educating ourselves, to making sure that we are understanding kind of historic injustices and discrimination, and taking responsibility to address that, not leaving it to just a HR professional or a diversity champion. There's some things that I've kind of seen work really well over the years. Obviously, in the recruitment process, you can look for ways to reduce unconscious bias. At DXW, we use blind recruitment through a software called Applied. So we're asking people to respond to some questions about the role and their skills, rather than list where they went to university or where they currently work. which is a nice way to level the playing field, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah.
We also try really hard to advertise our roles in a variety of places, and so I think that that hopefully means that more people see those jobs and can sort of picture themselves in them. I think the other thing to be sort of mindful of is making sure that, you know, once you've hired a diverse set of people, making sure you have a working environment that's inclusive and welcoming for everybody.
Yeah.
So again, thinking about you know, ways to run inclusive meetings, making sure that they're, you know, online for the people that can't join, in person for the people that can. You know, ideally you'd give people information in advance so that they're not put on the spot if actually that's, you know, sometimes neurodiverse people struggle a little bit with being put on the spot. Companies can offer genuine flexible working. That doesn't just mean, oh, you can do part-time. It means, you know, accommodating people who have medical appointments regularly, or parents that need to leave early to collect children.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing we do a lot of at DXW, we have lots of sort of champions who like to share information, so that's quite useful. Recently, a team member shared something about you know, how to sensitively ask somebody what their pronouns were, which again is a nice way to create a inclusive atmosphere.
Absolutely, yeah. Just on that last point, is that something that's kind of been implemented from the top down, or is that's what the team at DXW want and kind of been pushed up from the bottom, or is it a mix of both?
Yeah, that's a great question. If I'm honest, I'd say that it's coming from the ground up, which I think is great, that individuals can feel confident and safe enough to share that kind of information with the whole company. It's really important then that the leadership respect that and understand that and look for ways to support that further. I think some of the initiatives do come from top down, but some of them sort of come from all over the place, really.
I think it's great, obviously, that the company's kind of aligned and everyone's kind of meeting in the middle, and it all seems to be pulling in the same direction, which is great. So next question then. So I guess as a, you know, hugely successful woman in the tech space, what challenges and barriers have you know, faced personally, or maybe seen people, you know, be faced with?
Yeah, I think personally, I feel like I've been quite fortunate that I haven't experienced too many obvious barriers. I think there is, it kind of relates to the sort of first point I was making about confidence. I definitely find that it's quite easy as a woman in tech, in particular when I was a bit younger, to kind of dismiss the importance of my work or be a bit embarrassed about the fact that I'm in a senior position. And I've definitely found myself caveating things that I've said. I'm sure you've heard people who introduce themselves by saying sorry as the first thing they say. I've definitely been in that situation before. So again, trying very hard over the last few years to demonstrate more confident behaviour so that other people can see me in that position and think that perhaps they could do that as well. And there's someone called Lauren Curry who I follow and really like all the things that she talks about in terms of confidence. So I think that's more of a, you know, an individual thing for me, but it's probably a factor of assumptions about a woman in the workplace, particularly in technology. I have had people in the past assume that I don't understand technology, or assume that perhaps I'm in less senior positions. And again, when I was younger, that was quite deflating. But again, I would hopefully now be able to have the confidence to just politely call them out and just say, you know, this is my job and I know what I'm doing, just like I would respect you in your job.
Okay. Just a little follow-up, I guess, that have you noticed, obviously in your career so far, have you noticed that we are shifting them in the right direction? Does it feel like we're improving, or does it feel the same as, you know, when you first got into this tech?
Yeah, I mean, I think things are improving for sure. I think there's a much kind of wider variety of people entering technology, both, you know, men and women, but also ages. I've noticed quite a few people who are finding a career in technology later on in their career, which I think really helps as well, because then that's just a different career pathway, isn't it, to technology, rather than a very specific one, which may have been followed by certain types of people. So yeah, I definitely think that if at DXW we're 50-50 gender split, although actually if you look across, if you sort of drill down into some of the roles, our development team is still slightly more skewed towards male. So definitely progress, but still more to go. And it's going to take time, because lots of the initiatives that I've seen, the really good initiatives to get more women in technology, are aiming at junior people. So there's, it's going to need 10 years, it's going to need 15 years for them to get into leadership positions, to get into other roles. So more to do, but we're definitely doing. I think it's getting better.
Good. Well, at least if we're heading in the right direction, I think that's always positive. So what's your proudest achievement then in tech, and I guess personally as well?
So not necessarily in technology, but it is in work, so hopefully this is okay. I think I'm really proud that we managed to turn DXW into an employee in business last year. And I think we're now one of the biggest employee-owned tech agencies in the UK. The reason why I think that's such a big deal is because it really sort of solidifies our culture, I guess, and means that we're recognizing that the businesses are people that are in it, and not the shareholders. And so I feel really proud about that. A very specific thing that I'm proud of is when I worked at Comic Relief. We delivered Red Nose Day 2017, and it was my technology team that provided the tech that raised £78 million, and possibly even more excitingly managed to withstand sort of traffic peaks of 208 donations a second, which is a lot. It was really intense. But a huge amount of fun. Exactly, but a huge amount of fun. And to know that you kind of contributed to that is a really big deal.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the top of my CV, I think. That's amazing. Okay then. So in your, where am I? So I guess this one quite timely. In your experience then, what can be some of the benefits, in terms of supporting people who maybe want to take time off work, whether that's, sabbatical or for other reasons, and what sort of the benefits do you feel?
Yeah, well, it's related to kind of inclusive workplaces, I think, and it's recognizing that people have life outside of work, and that's okay. In fact, that probably makes them a better employee if they're, not 100% thinking about work. So I think, whilst you need to kind of consider the practicalities, if everybody decided to take a very long 2-month holiday or whatever, then that would be problematic. But I think it means people can come back refreshed. They can they can be more open about what they do outside of work, whether that's being a parent or studying, or perhaps even, having a health condition that means that they need to take some time off. I think, being able to be open about that in the workplace kind of increases empathy, increases team collaboration, and also inclusion. I have some sort of specific thoughts about going on parental leave, because that's something I'm about to do myself, which I think is, I think it's a period of change, leaving the workplace, particularly if you're not used to not working, which is what is the case for me, and then obviously returning as probably a slightly different person. So I think there are things that the companies can do to support people do that, and sort of empower them, I guess, to take control of that situation. Through making it clear about their responsibilities, helping with handover, talking about the fact that people are going off, not making it a sort of a taboo thing. It shouldn't be, and people shouldn't have to apologise for taking time off or feel guilty towards their colleagues, even though that can be quite easy to do. And similarly, when people return to the workplace, being conscious that they've had a life change, or that even just time off from a sabbatical it'll take a bit of time to ramp up, and sort of, you know, helping to support them in that hopefully means they'll, you know, come back and be able to add value.
Okay. Just on that, is DXW sort of got an official policy, or is it still kind of on a case by case, and you know, having those kind of open, frank conversations and just being flexible, I guess, which kind of goes back to what you're talking about earlier?
Yeah, so we have specific policies around parental leave, both for all the different kinds of ways that you might become a parent, and for kind of birthing partners and non-birthing partners. We don't have anything specific about sabbaticals. We do allow for unpaid leave, and we have had people take time off. Somebody, for example, wanted to go to the cricket in Australia for 2 months, and we were able to accommodate that because they gave us loads of notice. We also have a few people that are studying alongside working, so we give them time off to do that. So yeah, it's not an official policy. I know some companies do have, you know, if you've worked for us for a certain amount of time, you can take X amount of time off. But we do sort of look at things case by case. We do have lots of flexible working policies though, and that doesn't just mean week on week. It might mean working term time and, you know, not in the summer holidays, or it might mean every month having a week off because you have a particular deadline when you're studying, for example. So we do have some policies around that, but not necessarily sabbaticals. I think it's something we'll look into though, because it seems to be being talked about and requested a bit more.
Yeah, I think we've just had our first one at SR2 actually. We went to Bali for 3 months, which sounds dreadful. So outside of work, then it sounds like obviously like work is a huge part of, you know, what you enjoy. But what makes you happiest in your free time?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time with my family and friends, and that's always been really important to make sure that even if I'm busy working, I still have time to do that. Really like to cook, and have a very large recipe book collection, which I'm quite proud of. I feel like there should be some sort of service where I can rent it out to people or give it to people temporarily, because otherwise you can only cook for one thing at once, can't you? But anyway.
That sounds like a business idea.
Maybe.
Dragon's Den, perhaps. Okay then. And in one sentence, appreciate this is a bit of a tricky one. How would you sum up your career so far?
Yeah, I haven't got anything snappy for you, I'm afraid. But I guess I didn't plan to work in technology, but it turns out I rather like it, and still lots to learn. So I'm here for a bit longer, I think.
Perfect, good. And finally then, what era would you live in, past or future or present? I guess, well, present wouldn't really work, but past or future, and why?
Yeah, this was the hardest question to answer of them all of them. But I think I have to say the future, because it's pretty exciting thinking about the stuff that I can't even imagine that's going to be our reality in, you know, 50 or 100 years. I just keep thinking that I think the internet's about 50 years old, but I think the World Wide Web is only 35 years old. That is just unfathomable. So what on earth are we going to see next? I have no idea. So that's pretty cool. I'd like to know that.
Awesome. I found out today I'm actually older than Scrum, and I work with quite a lot of Scrum Masters, and I found out I'm older than the discipline of Scrum. So absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for that, Claire. What I will do is I will finish the recording there. Perfect.